Kids, some of them will tell you the different stories. They'll tell you that they don't have their parents. There's a little girl that I talked to a little while ago. She said that she had lost her mom and that she doesn't have a father. So she's coming into this country because her uncle is going to be the sponsor. So they want to take this little girl is going into the States. And I asked her, what state are you going to? What's your final destination? She said, I don't know. All I know is that it snows there. That's all I know. The other little girl that I was talking to, I said, do you have a phone number of where you're going so that we can establish contact? She said, I lost it in the river before I crossed. Those are the cases where we'll work with our consulate partners to try and establish contact of the sponsor wherever they're going to go.
What is this different than what you have seen in the past?
So yes, there's the pull factors, right? So the pull factors are those. They know that we're releasing them. They know that right now there's nothing stopping them. We're not going to deport them back to their country, so they keep coming in droves. Right now, these kids, we're starting to see younger and younger kids being brought over by their sponsors, by relatives, by grandparents, wherever it is in the family that is actually asking for these kids and paying the fees to smuggle these kids into the country.
Is this where these kids sleep in this area? Or is this just kind of a play area for them?
This is where they sleep. It's so crowded in those pods that I can't possibly put these young kids in those pods because they're going to get hurt. So in order, that's the permanent home for these kids until we're able to put them and turn them over to HHS custody.
How does that sit with you?
I'm a father. I don't want to see that. As a Border Patrol agent, I didn't sign up for this. You know, I have kids of my own. And then you hear the other stories. You know, about a month and a half ago, I was back here talking to one of the little girls. You know, and I told the congressional delegation the same thing, right? We were going to send her to the hospital. And as I got closer to her, I noticed that she couldn't speak. And I asked the medical staff what happened. And the reason she was going to the hospital because she had gotten gang raped. And the reason that she couldn't speak was because she had lost her voice in the process while she was getting raped. Those things hit hard. You know, I'm a Border Patrol agent, yes I am, but I'm also a father. And it hurts because my daughter is near the age of that little girl that I was talking to, that she was going to be sent to the hospital to get checked because she had been raped. And those are some of the stories that we hear. As Border Patrol agents, we wear different hats when we work in this place. You know, again, yes, we are officers. Yes, we enforce the immigration laws. But when you have kids involved, then we have to take care of these kids. This is not the right place for these kids.
Are you worried that this will get worse?
Of course I am. Because if there isn't a consequence, we're going to have, the flow is going to increase. And those things that end up happening, the stories, the untold stories of these little ones, God knows if these kids were molested during their journey. You know, I think the chief has been able to give the statistics on, you know, the criminal aliens that we're apprehending within our RGB's area of operation. So nothing is to say that those people are not coming in those groups and making those journeys with these kids. These kids had to sleep somewhere along the way. And only God knows what happens to them while they're coming in on that journey. Yes, there is a fee to be paid, but in that fee, nothing is guaranteeing the safety and the security of that child until they come into our custody.
Thanks, Oscar. I'm gonna let him get some video because I know he wants to, and I'm sure he wants to ask some questions too.
This is one of the narrowest points of the Rio Grande. It's also relatively shallow, and this is a spot where we know that illegal immigrants are crossing because throughout we've seen boots, we've seen socks. Actually, the last time I was on, about an hour ago, I showed John Bachman a boot that we found, and there's jeans, there's other articles of clothing drying. So this is a spot where people can easily swim across, and it's shallow water. If you take a look down here, it is very, very simple. The water is a little cold, but that's not going to deter people who are risking their lives to come to the United States. Now, up behind me on this hill, that's a residential neighborhood up there. There are a bunch of nice houses, families live there, and all you have to do is cross the river, walk up there, get into town, and you're here. And this isn't just a partisan issue. We know that Republicans are down here visiting the border, but Henry Cuellar, the Democrat from Laredo who represents this district, says it's a problem. It's not just the kids that are being cramped, but that it's so easily for anyone, even a cartel member, to cross this river.
You know, Logan, I want to ask you about that too, but the policy's critical, but let's talk the politics, as you mentioned as well, that Cuellar, Democratic Congressman, congressman is starting to speak up against these Biden policies. Similar comments from Vicente Gonzalez, another Democratic liberal representative of a border district. Look, there was an amazing move toward President Trump back in November in these border areas. The president won places that in counties that had not been won by Republicans literally since Reconstruction. Do you think, Logan, that there's going to be lasting political fallout in favor of the America First agenda and of the Republican Party because of what's happening there now?
Well, I think it really doesn't even have to do with politics, Steve. I think that any American, if they have the opportunity to get down here, should see this. I mean, this is your border. I've been saying all week, the Hudson River is wider, the Mississippi River is wider. This is a big issue here on our southern border in Texas. And obviously there's parts of the border that have wall, but we also talked to National Guardsmen. They're here as watchdogs. All they do is tell CBP, hey, we see people crossing, go get them. They can't do anything. And then CBP a lot of times just can only bring them to these detention facilities or hotels if there's overflow, and then they decide what to do from there. So the whole situation really is out of control, and there's really one agent per 5 or 10 miles of this river. Right.
Not as wide as the Hudson River, but it can still be deadly, as we learned this week. The 9-year-old
here's
little
the thing,
girl died.
Heather. I threw a stone across right here.
Yeah. All right, Logan. We're going to check back in with you.
And it landed on the other side. That's how close we are.
Right. Well, we're going to check back in with you. We're now going to go to James Klug, though, who is reporting from McAllen, Texas. James, what is the latest from there?
Yeah, so this morning there was a press conference basically discussing what is going on at our southern border. Right behind me, you can actually see Mexico right there. There's a lot of illegal immigrants that cross this specific area, and this happens all over our southern border, especially in Rio Grande Valley. Last night, we were in La Jolla, Texas, and we had witnessed well over 130 illegal immigrants, some groups as large as 60 plus unaccompanied children. There was at least 20, and this is happening every single night and every single day down here in southern Texas.
All right. Thank you so much, James. We appreciate it. We're going to check back in with James as well. But now let's go back once again to the holding facility, the migrant processing center or facility where a lot of these children are being held. Some of those children perhaps coming across the border in the middle of night that James was able to shoot video of.
And I think also it's important to note, Heather, that some of these children subjected to horrific abuse on the journey because, this lawless border, there is a controlling authority on the southern side of the border, and unfortunately it's the Mexican cartels. So when the United States law enforcement loses control of the border, that power is effectively transferred to the cartels. And this specific facility, by the way, every girl who is 10 years and older when they arrive there, they get a pregnancy test. A 12-year-old was pregnant. A 12-year-old at this facility. So the kind of degradation and abuse of children that's happening in our border region that is being encouraged and incentivized by Joe Biden's policies, I think it's impossible to exaggerate how important and how dire this situation is.
I think all you need to do is take the footage of the little girl crying, and that's enough for Americans to say enough is enough. You know, Mark Morgan is standing by, and he's going to talk to us again. And Mark, I think that you were the one earlier that had said to me in one of our conversations about what is happening to these little girls and these women who are being brought over here and being used as pawns by these drug cartels.
Yeah, you're absolutely 100% correct. This is what the Biden administration won't tell, the dirty little secret. What is inhumane and what is cruel is any government that incentivizes and facilitates illegal immigration. Look, there are independent studies, not from the government, independent studies that says up to 30% of the women and children coming across are exposed to some type of abuse. And they're shoved in overcrowded, unsanitary stash houses and tractor trailers, sometimes days and weeks before they come across. And then they're just abandoned. The coyote just shoved in the Rio Grande to abandon them. Last week, right here in Texas, we had a mother and her son and daughter who drowned, all unconscious. Border Patrol responded. They were able to successfully save the mother and the son. Unfortunately, the 9-year-old daughter died. That is what happens when you incentivize illegal immigration.
Right. And Mark, speaking of the incentives, I want to ask you about the financial windfall for the cartels, because Customs and Border Patrol estimates that during February, and the numbers were lower in February, of course, than they are now in March as the weather gets so much better down there. But in February, they estimate that $14 million per day was flowing from the illegal migrants into the coffers of the cartel. Can you speak to the long-term ramifications of this massive transfer of money into the hands of some of the most dangerous organizations on earth?
Look, I love the question. I hope your viewers are paying attention to this because, look, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand what the results are. The only people that gain from this are the cartels and the smuggling organizations. Look, we're estimated way over 1 million individuals will be apprehended this calendar year. Conservatively, that's $5-6 billion in the hand of the cartels. And what happens? They get stronger, they get more powerful, and they own the border even more. So they can pour drugs in, criminal aliens, all why they keep their bank accounts keep growing. That's the truth, and that's what you won't hear from the Biden administration.
Mark, one of the things, though, that we did hear from the Biden administration, actually from President Biden himself in his one and only news conference, is that this is seasonal. This happens every year. These numbers increase for these 3 months every year, but you know that that's not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the question as well. It's a blatant lie. Let's look at this same time frame last year. So from November to March, same time last year, the numbers actually went down drastically. In March of 2020, 33,000 in a month. Right now, I'm saying on your show this month, I am anticipating 150,000. So not only have the numbers in the same time period skyrocketed, doubled, but from year to year, a 350% increase. That's not seasonal. That's a lie.
You know, it's just an incredibly unfortunate situation. And again, one that didn't just happen. This isn't bad luck. It's one that was created. I think that's what's so important for us to all recognize as American citizens. Mark Morgan, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.